So I basically oversee all of our outside folks, our engineers, our linemen, our tree trimmers, warehouse fleet, most of the boots on the ground, hands-on folks that work here. I guess I would classify it as improving, but we still have a long ways to go. So I think we peaked at maybe a little over 30,000 meters yesterday morning after the heaviest of the winds, and we're close to 10,000 now. So we've got almost 20,000 meters back into service. So I think our crews are doing a heck of a job out there. All our linemen, tree crews, and everybody else who's helping patrol in that. But as we see some of these bigger outages get cleared up and fixed, we're still going to have a lot of smaller outages scattered throughout the system, which are going to probably take even more time than the bigger outages to fix. So I think we still are going to I think we're going to make really good progress today, but I think we're still going to be working into tomorrow and potentially even into the weekend. So it fluctuates throughout the day and the night. We typically have people working 24 hours a day just so we have emergency responders. We try to have the most amount of people working in the daylight because we can use the benefit of the light to get the most work done. So we probably have between 40 and 50 people working right now, between the folks who are actually doing the tree trimming and the cutting and the repair, and then the other folks supporting, like our warehouse folks and our mechanics, and then even our engineers are going ahead of our crews to observe what's wrong with the line so they can report back, and the crews can be better prepared when they show up. So like I said, at night we don't have quite as many working because we have to rest our crews too. They can't just work 24 hours a day for the duration of the storm, unfortunately. Sometimes they act like Superman, but they're not always that. But we do have a pretty good contingency working during the day. So it is an all hands on deck situation. And are we thinking that we're going to be able to contract for mutual aid with other crews? We already have started some of that. We do have a crew from another utility that's helping us right now, started this morning. And then we do have a couple of contract tree trimming crews that normally are doing work for us anyways, and so they're working with us today also. And then we have contacted several other utilities and maybe getting a couple of crews from them as they clean up some of their own messes. So it's unfortunately the wind event was very widespread, and all of our neighboring utilities are experiencing a lot of the same things that we are. So how do we decide how to start fixing outages when there's so many? We really just kind of follow the flow of electricity. And so the way that is we focus on our transmission lines first because they carry the electricity from the generating sources to our substations. So we make sure our transmission is good, and then we make sure our substations are good, because then from our substations we distribute the electricity to our members. So we have what comes out of there, we call them feeders or main lines. And so they will carry the electricity and distribute it throughout the system. And usually those feeders or main lines kind of follow corridors. So like highway corridors or something similar to that. So Highway 2 West is kind of a corridor where we have main line, and we're working significantly right now to repair the main line. Highway 93 South, Whitefish Stage are all kind of corridors. So once we get the main lines, the feeders back on, then we start focusing on the smaller, what we call taps off the main lines. So those are where we're going to have a lot of the smaller outages as we start making these big repairs. We'll see a lot of those taking a lot of time to get fixed then. So all the way down to the single outage where somebody's service maybe got damaged between the transformer and their house. We'll have a lot of those kinds of things to clean up too. Coming up. For questions about the outage map and outage restoration, it's really difficult to be able to predict when the systems are going to come on and even which systems are going to come on when. So when people are calling in, there's just not a lot of information that can be put out there. Members are much better off going to our website and looking at our communications page. We try to put updates on there at least a couple times a day, and that usually has a little more detail about where we're working at, what crews are focused on, potentially what we hope to get back on today, tonight, and into tomorrow. So that's really the best bet. The member service reps that are taking calls don't have much of an idea about when our power is going to be restored, and even trying to get in touch with dispatch, they're so busy that just trying to manage our crews and the different things going on our system. And so the outage map is a good tool, but people have to remember too that there's kind of a lag between as our dispatch is updating it and we're getting restorations done. There could be areas that show that they're out of power when we've restored, or we could be missing areas that haven't reported in. So it's a good tool, but you have to take it a little bit with a grain of salt. It isn't 100% accurate, and we don't really have the ability to update a lot of the restoration times on there because we're dealing with so many events. Yeah, flatelectric.com is a great resource for folks to look at and get morning and evening updates. It's certainly possible. Right now, we're hearing that there's another front moving through. We just got notice that there's potential for another wind event tonight. Not nearly as powerful as the one that went through yesterday, but still anywhere in the 20 to 40 mile an hour wind range. So it's really hard to say, since we had such an event, of if there's still damaged trees or trees that could potentially still fall. Feels like we should have gotten all of them already, but you never do. So there certainly is some additional chances tonight that we're going to have an uptick in outages again. Yeah, so the amount of rain that we've received through the last couple weeks with the warmer weather and all of that, it's really having a significant impact on the tree root systems, and because the soil is so saturated that it's not holding the trees, it's not frozen like it normally is this time of year. So that's certainly adding to the difficulty with the trees, but it also adds to the difficulty in just getting access into these locations. If people have ever seen our big bucket trucks, our big line trucks driving around, they're pretty heavy pieces of equipment. They're difficult to get in and out of places, and when the ground is wet and it's muddy, it just makes it that much more difficult for our trucks, and then even for our crews to be out maneuvering, in just on the ground themselves, rigging stuff. Everything about it is making it more challenging for the restoration effort. I think the biggest thing is to just be patient. I know that's super difficult. When you're out of power for 24, 48, moving into 72 hours at times, it's difficult. I'd say the biggest things is don't try to help. Stay away from power lines. We've said it a lot of times. Even our linemen, when they look at a power line, you can't tell if it's energized without testing it. So just because a wire's on the ground doesn't mean it's de-energized. So never trust that you can be anywhere close to it. Leave it to the professionals. And then just give them space. Let them do their jobs. It's just taking time away from them when you're asking them questions and that. And they have to make sure that the areas they're working are safe. So really be patient. I know it can be frustrating, but just trust that your co-op is doing everything that we can to get your power back on.